On this episode of Cape Media News, Cape Cod to join together for peace, the impact of shopping local, and we take a look at fentanyl in our continuing Community Impact series. These stories and more, this is Cape Media News. This is Cape Media News, your local authentic newscast for Cape Cod. We begin in Chatham. A state anthropologist and other officials returned to Chatham today to further examine a site where human skeletal remains were found. Just before 3:30 on Thursday, August 17th, Chatham police were notified that human remains were discovered by a pool construction crew doing excavating work at a residence on Uncle Albert's Drive. Initial examination revealed possibly 2 or 3 sets of remains were found, buried about 4 feet deep in the ground. The remains appear to be very old and part of a possible burial site. Anthropologists are on scene to determine the age and origins of the remains. At this time, a criminal investigation is not necessary. This, by the way, is not the first time that ancient remains have been found in Chatham. In July of last year, human remains believed to be over 100 years old were discovered at a construction site on Cross Street, and in December, human remains were found on the grounds of the Atwood House Museum on Stage Harbor Road. Both of those cases were turned over to the State Medical Officer's Forensic Anthropologists Division. The Cape Cod Commission has approved plans for a brand new sports complex in Hyannis. Total Athletics is to be built in Independence Park. It includes a 2-story athletic field house, swimming pool, fitness training, and much more. Ground is expected to break this fall. In the wake of a violent white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, and the recent anti-Semitic vandalism that has occurred in 2 Cape communities, the local faith community is preparing to gather together in peace and solidarity. The nation continues to be shocked following the violent weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, a clash between white nationalists and counter-protesters that left 1 dead, others injured, and put a spotlight on the continued confusion, divisiveness, and ongoing racial unrest in our country. We are not immune from hate here on Cape Cod. This week alone, a man was arrested in Sandwich after he was caught on camera carving images of swastikas into the green of a local golf course. Mashpee police are investigating an incident in which a swastika was found painted on the hood of a car parked in New Seabury. The Cape Cod faith community is inviting all of Cape Cod to come together and stand in witness to the values of compassion and justice. A peace rally will be held on Saturday, August 19th at the Cape Cod Synagogue on Winter Street in Hyannis. The rally begins at 1:30. It's intended as a time to be together with all who wish to counter messages of hatred by kindling the light of hope and human dignity for all. Up next, Cape Media News intern Olivia Beaton shows us how shopping local helps Cape Cod's economy.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
In a world where shopping online is so convenient, local businesses are feeling the pinch, but one local organization is working to make shopping local easy and fun. Cape Media News intern Olivia Beaton has the latest on Love Live Local.
This year marks the 5th season of Love Local Fest on Cape Cod. Over the past few years, Love Live Local founders Amanda Converse, Jen Villa, and Kate Sheehan have been spreading their mission, highlighting the importance of supporting local businesses here on Cape Cod.
So Amanda, Jen, and I met in 2011, and we were really excited about being a part of this community, and Jen and Amanda as shop owners, and me as someone who is joining the community after many years away, had the idea to kind of change the language about all of the exciting things that were going on Cape Cod, and we really just wanted to share with other people all of the things that we were doing and the experiences that we were having, and also to advocate for all of the small business owners on Cape Cod, and really explain what an amazing year-round community we have here.
I think essentially the goal of Love Live Local is connecting people, connecting and encouraging collaboration amongst our local community, connecting artists and shops with customers and fellow artists and shopkeepers, and connecting education to the consumers and our collective community together.
Well, I think beyond the fact that the local business owners in our community are members of the community, they're our friends, our neighbors, and our kids' coaches, and they're passionate about the community just as much as the people who are consuming. But economically speaking, more of the dollars spent at a locally owned store stays in the community, as opposed to if you spend your dollars at a box store or online, very, very little, if any, of that money actually stays on Cape Cod. And when I say stays on Cape Cod, I mean it goes to other local businesses, it goes to other local services, it goes to nonprofits and our school systems, and so they really, most of the small businesses here reinvest their dollars into our local community.
We've found that there is very strong support for events. When we first started Love Live Local, we weren't sure what the response to it was going to be. It was incredibly strong. I think we really hit on something that people were craving, and we see that that need is only growing. The need for information about new local businesses, not only where to buy things, but how to explore Cape Cod for locals and visitors alike year-round, not just during the summer season, during the shoulder seasons, and during the winter too. There's a huge appetite for it and a lot of support for what we're doing.
I think, as Kate mentioned, there has been a lot of support for our mission and what we're doing, and people like to say that they're supporting shopping local and things like that. But I think that a very important thing is for people to actually act on those words. And I think it's also not just getting involved in the community can mean volunteering, it can mean spending your time giving to organizations, but it also means thinking local first when you're making shopping decisions as well. So I think that's a huge way to get involved in the community, and you vote with your dollars. So
if you're looking for a way to shop locally, Love Local Fest is a perfect place to get started.
We just celebrated our 5th season, so essentially 4 years ago. We really wanted to bring to life our mission and physically connect the artists, the vendors, the local businesses together with the customers in an atmosphere that was fun and festive and easy to participate in. It was hands-on experience, and we have found such an incredible response from our vendors and our participants, as well as our community, and supporting them. And it's just a really fun event to get people together.
We are always looking for the right mix of vendors, so we might have too many of one sort of category. So we're just trying to get the right mix for the vendors and for the customers, because we like to have a good variety of not just, we have soap makers, we have apparel, we have artisans.
To get involved with our mission is to truly start thinking local first. So it's really easy. We all have shopping habits and consumption habits, and to really pause and think about those things that we assume we can't get locally, and to question, kind of take an inventory.
For more information on all things local, check out lovelivelocal.com and attend the next Love Local Fest on September 24th at Alsoton Park. For Cape Media News, I'm Olivia Beaton.
It's National Community Health Center Week. We talked with Heidi Nelson of the Duffy Health Center about the important role of local community health centers.
So the community health center movement started over 50 years ago. Actually, community health centers started in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The very first community health center in the nation was on Columbia Point in Boston, and the reason that it was created was a doctor who had a real passion for serving people who had no access to health care in that very poor neighborhood, wanted to provide health care access to those individuals. So health centers really serve those people who are underserved and have often not had access to health care. So you see health centers in urban neighborhoods, but you also see them in very rural areas. Federally qualified health centers or community health centers here on the Cape and Islands. 4 of them are geographically based, and then Duffy Health Center is population based. So Community Health Center of Cape Cod is located in Mashpee, Falmouth, and Bourne, so they serve the Upper Cape. Harbor Community Health Center in Hyannis is located in Independence Park, and they serve the Mid-Cape. And then Outer Cape Health Services serves the Lower and Outer Cape. Island Healthcare is our newest community health center here on Cape Cod, and they're located in Edgartown on Martha's Vineyard. And so all of those health centers are geographic based. Duffy Health Center serves a special population, which is the homeless or people who are at risk of homelessness. So we serve all of Barnstable County. It is a very uncertain environment right now. We have a number of things that are going on that are extremely positive and give us cause for optimism, but then there's always the big shadow kind of lurking in the background of terrible things that could happen. So just kind of running down through them very quickly, the things that are impacting health centers these days. Of course, when Congress was working on repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act, the impact of those decisions could have been a loss of upwards of $800 billion over 10 years to the Medicaid program. And many of our health centers are extremely dependent on Medicaid. So for example, Duffy is 50% funded by patient reimbursement or third-party reimbursement, and over half of that comes from the Medicaid program. So if there were significant changes to that, that would have a huge impact on us. What I'd like to say is that not only do we provide a significant source of access to health care for our communities, everybody can get behind what we provide as small businesses, and maybe some not so small businesses. We served last year 50,000 patients on the Cape and Islands. So when you think about the total population of the Cape and Islands, we're serving between 20 and 25% of our population here with primary care services. So that's significant, 200,000 visits. So there's the healthcare access component of what we do, but there's also the what we call the economic engine component of what we do. So for example, at Duffy Health Center, we have 67 employees, and half of them live in Barnstable. Most of them live in the village of Hyannis. They eat, drink, and buy their groceries and go to the movies here in Hyannis, which creates an economic impact. So our $6 million budget, which brings federal and state dollars to the local community, generates about $9 million worth of economic activity.
Up next, our new Community Impact series takes a look at fentanyl.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing.
I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels.
After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak.
Meals on Wheels coming to my door as someone who's housebound, having someone check on me, assures me that I'm not forgotten.
Meals on Wheels has given me a mode of freedom that I wouldn't have otherwise.
We're the clients.
We are the clients.
We are the clients of Meals on Wheels.
America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
The opioid crisis touches many aspects of our community here on Cape Cod. Our new series, Community Impact, is taking a look at the issue and what local organizations are doing to try to help. This week, we hear from local police about fentanyl, a drug much more potent than heroin that many believe is responsible for an increase in overdose deaths.
232. You guys just come into Hyannis. It's a synthetic type of heroin which is being made in all types of ways. There's how it's getting to this country. It seems to be coming through Canada from China and then crossing the border that way, where heroin the other way is coming through Mexico or from the Middle East, but more primarily it's been shifted coming through Mexico from Colombia. But the fentanyl itself is much more potent than heroin. And it's hard to detect with the standard field testing kits that we have. And what's also complicated things is we almost don't want our officers field testing anything, because the carfentanil, which you might be reading about, elephant tranquilizer, whatever its compounds are so deadly and dangerous, and it's just a minute amount you have to get on you. There have been numerous accounts where people just coming in contact with it are suffering from reactions to it.
Certainly the change in when I started, we never saw any synthetic opiates. We never saw any, it was basically just straight heroin. And now all the synthetics are coming out, the fentanyl, stuff like that, which is causing that many more overdoses.
Yeah, in the passenger seat, slumped over the wheel. And when I pulled up on him, he had a bunch of pills all laid all over him. And then as soon as I opened the door, he swallowed them. And we had 2 needles on the passenger seat, which we've already discarded. And just the bands right there.
But what is alarming is the amount of fentanyl that is being discovered in all this materials we're coming across now. It's almost all samples are coming back with fentanyl in them, which sometimes can explain why we might have more deaths, which we are experiencing more deaths. This year we've had 36 overdoses to date and 5 dead. That's as of May 19th. I haven't updated the stats since then. Last year we had 74 overdoses and we had 11 dead. So it's still pretty high compared to what it used to be.
So with that, I certainly think it's getting worse. Whether the number of people shooting heroin and stuff is changing, it's tough to tell. It's tough to tell if you're actually like making the problem get smaller, or somebody's always kind of like filling the spot of the next person.
I think they, especially with social media and the news, they see like the aftermath of everything, but they don't actually like see it in like when it's happening, when you're actually looking at this stuff, when you're dealing with it, and maybe how severe it may appear at the time, whether it ends up being that, whether you're done with the investigation, or you're done with a call or an overdose, can kind of go a couple different ways. So they may not see what it's like in the moment.
We'll continue to examine the issue in next week's edition of Community Impact. On Monday, a total solar eclipse will be visible, at least in part, here on Cape Cod. There are a number of local places you can view the eclipse, including heritage museums and gardens, the Cape Cod National Seashores Salt Pond Visitor Center, the Chatham Marconi Maritime Center, and the Schmidt Observatory behind Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School. Visit our blog at capemedia.org for more. That's all for this week's edition of Cape Media News. We'll be back next Friday with more. I'm Sarah Colvin.